You're staying calm, you're using the right words, but is it actually helping? Let's break down the signs that co regulation is working and what might actually be getting in the way. I've been talking a lot about co regulation, and you definitely want to stay until the end to learn how you can co regulate more effectively to cut down on these tantrums and meltdowns and disrespect. But let's talk about what co regulation, what it effectively, when you're doing it the right way, what does it look like, and when you're missing the mark. Three signs you're co regulating effectively. Number one, you pause before reacting. Even if you're still triggered, pausing is a healthy thing and it's pretty powerful. You don't have to do anything but pause. And you really have to say to yourself, I'm not going to react. Number two, your child returns to a baseline faster than before. When kids dysregulate, one of the things that happens isn't just the actual dysregulation, is they're stuck for a while, right? They might be grumpy and, sour and irritable and making noises and avoidant, whatever you know about your kid. You're noticing that recovery period is actually shortening. That's a great sign that your co-regulation is working. Number three, you're less reactive and you're more present in the moment. You're noticing that even if you are triggered, it's not as strong, it's not as frequent, or maybe you're noticing that you're just not personalizing this behavior and you're not reactive in the inside at all. You're remaining cool. It's pretty cool when that happens. That happened to me today. I just said to myself, and yesterday, because I'm getting some sleep. I know sleep is my trigger. I tell my kids I didn't sleep. They're like, watch out, you know, mom didn't sleep. It's a real struggle, sleep, not even kidding. I get a thought in the middle of the night and I'm like, let me write it down. Even though I'm just like Tony Senior, he sleeps like a baby anywhere. It's not my jam. It's not my thing. I have to work and actually have good sleep hygiene. What are two signs you are missing the mark on co-regulation? You're performing calm, but you're like irritated and angry and resentful and tense in the inside. And that's different from triggered, right? Because like we can be triggered and be like, okay, I'm triggered. But then when you really are irritated, it's going to show and you really struggle to recover on your own. And remember, this should lessen over time. If it doesn't lessen and you're so irritated, you're so angry, you're so resentful, you got some stuff you need to talk about with your therapist. So don't mess around. Okay. Number two, you rush to fix, stop an emotion instead of riding it with your kid. So reactions are normal for kids. I just said to you, yesterday and today, actually, each one of my kids reacted, but I stayed calm, like so ridiculously calm. It was actually, again, pretty easy just because I'm in a good place. I knew it was not about me. What happened was they pulled back. They apologized. I didn't even have to ask. And then we had great conversation after. And what I find is like these kinds of things, because we're not rushing to fix and stop the emotion, we're letting it happen. And afterwards, there's always such a growth in these kinds of things. It's just when our kids get stuck for a long time that it's a problem. We know when it's working, when there's less escalation, even if the emotions are still big. These are not going to just disappear. It's just the escalation, right? That period is not as intense, maybe. The frequency and duration isn't as long. That's a big one. There's more trust and closeness. Even after difficult moments, like I just said, like I noticed shifts in my kids' learning and actually our connection because they're like, wow, my mom didn't, or dad didn't hate me and I'm saying that with air quotes, like hold it against me. They're not angry at me. I notice now Max will say to me, he snapped at me and at something. And I said, Max, we don't have to talk like that. He goes, well, I thought you were angry at me. I said, do it sound like I'm angry? He was like, no, I just thought that. So that's okay. And then he was like, said he's sorry like 7 times. Like, you don't need to say you're sorry 7 times. You're growing and you're changing and I appreciate it. Let's just not do that. And he isn't as much because I'm holding it together. I'm not saying it's easy. You're not afraid of your kids' big emotions. I think when you start to shift to this, the dread doesn't come over you every time you see a reaction and you know that you have tools, you know that growth will come from this. lots of good stuff. They'll learn to regulate. And then your child begins to use language and tools on their own. And in my case, my house, they'll even like be like, wow, I think you're dysregulating. Why don't we co-regulate? They start telling things to me. And, we're very funny family, but they really do start to talk about these tools. It's pretty awesome. Whenever I work with people, they tell me these stories. And I had gotten on social about one of the kids that I was working with who was so impulsive and always in trouble. And his school sent home this beautiful email about how awesome he was. And on the same day before the teacher sent it, the kid came home and he was so proud. He got in the car actually and said, like, Mom, this kid was having a hard time and this is what I did. And I feel so good about it. And his parents were like just over the moon, like excited in this progress. It wasn't perfection. It was that he was really internalizing all the good stuff. And it's only happening because they're helping him find calm. And I think that's amazing. How do we normalize the messy middle? Because there is messy middle. I don't live in a perfect household, and I don't know many people do. You can still lose it yourself at times and still be a regulated parent. Again, 80% of the time, you need to be great. 20% forgiveness. If it's more than that, again, you need help. And what really matters is the repair. What's the learning? What's the connection that's going to come from this? If you're always in a friction moment with your kids, you're not going to progress. There's no discipline, there's no words that's going to come from that. You got to regulate first, both of you. And just know that every time you're modeling calm, you are wiring your brain, but you're sending that signal to your child's brain that they should be calm too. And that's I love that. It's my favorite part. What's your action step? What are you going to do this week? You're going to check in with your body every time a situation comes up and say, where am I feeling tense? How can I lessen that tension? How can I breathe through it? This is a somatic therapy technique, right? What can I do to go through that and lessen it before I approach my child? Keep a little list for yourself. What helps you reset so that you're clear about it? And then, of course, use it. And then just focus on the progress. Don't think about, did this happen or not? How much progress? Did the intensity, frequency, and duration of my own agitation, my child's agitation go down? Then it's a win. And then we have to lean in and keep doing that. The goal isn't to avoid big emotions, it's to show your child how to feel safe and move through them safely in periods of when things are stressful. And that's the power of co-regulation, because it really can help you do that. So if you want more calm parenting strategies delivered in your inbox every week, I hope you're subscribing to the Dysregulation Insider, because it's free and you should. And it's got great stuff and it will change your world. So go to drroseann.com/newsletter. I've gotten some wonderful feedback from parents who say that, like, they literally, this is the highlight of their week because there's so much good juice in it and I write it. And I want you to have the best of the best tools so you're not searching the internet in the middle of the night, even though this is probably how you found this podcast or the video. But now I want you to have Dr. Rowe in your back pocket so you can have regulation first.
Want more insights and solutions? Well, subscribe to our Dysregulation Insider and it will show up in your inbox every week.